nervous and I'm literally the only one in here. Now that I appear to have gotten over whatever that was, today we're going to be talking about sports uniforms. I'm sure we've all seen at least one in our lives. The different and sometimes arguably ugly colors, patterns, fonts. I'm looking at you, Pittsburgh Steelers Bumblebee uniforms, because my Packers could never. Anyway, I'm really sorry for the number of people who had to witness that. Uniforms don't only provide a way for teams to wear adequate pads for fans and refs to tell teams apart, and sometimes, well, for one to win.
James Bradbury, they're going to say he grabs him. He's got his left hand on his back. I don't know.
Uniforms can be powerful, especially in women's sports. The fit of uniforms can affect a female athlete's comfortability and can be a distraction if a shirt rides up or if pants sag. This kind of thing happens far too often for female athletes, especially for the U.S. women's national team, reigning World Cup champions. The last thing they need is a nagging distraction when they're preparing to make another World Cup run in 2023. Women's uniforms have also provided a statement around power and sexism. The United States women's national team uniforms not only display major successes compared to its male counterpart, but also provide a sense of pride and warning for its opponents. And according to Nike's president and CEO, the United States women's national team home jerseys were Nike's best-selling uniforms in 2019. This sounds good, right? The successes, the sales. But let's go back, as until very recently, women's soccer uniforms around the world were just the same as men's, baggy, and only sold to one gender. Okay, so before we really dive into uniforms and their importance in tournaments and leagues and for certain teams, let's discuss what these major events are and who the big dogs are in women's soccer. The FIFA World Cup is put on by FIFA, soccer's governing body, and is the granddaddy tournament of them all for women's soccer. The tournament occurs every 4 years with 32 teams, just as the men's. The Women's World Cup began in 1991, much later than the men's, and only 4 teams have won, with the United States being crowned champions in 4 out of the 8 World Cups, with the next World Cup being in New Zealand in 2023. This isn't the only major tournament, however, as there are women's equivalents to many of the men's continental tournaments, such as the Euros for Europe and CONCACAF for North and Central America, and obviously, the Olympics. But the Olympics don't hold near as much history and emotion as the World Cup. In addition, these female athletes are also able to play in a variety of professional leagues. The NWSL is the premier professional women's soccer league in the United States with 12 clubs. For the purposes of this video, we will be focusing on the Women's Super League and its lower divisions as the English equivalent to the Men's English Premier League. The 12 teams paired with the Men's Premier League include Manchester United and West Brom, which we will discuss later. As previously mentioned, the U.S. women's national team are back-to-back champions in the 2019 and 2015 World Cup and have been key in the women's soccer world as political activists and proponents for equal pay. As for other major teams, they include Japan, Germany, and the Netherlands. Now, let's finally go into the first Women's World Cup and its uniforms in 1991. In the first Women's World Cup in 1991, the games featured extremely baggy uniforms. In 1999 came the famous Brandi Chastain World Cup winning goal, which I'm sure some of you have seen before, again in white baggy uniforms, though her showing of her sports bra seemed to be a much bigger topic of conversation. Go! These uniform issues weren't unique to the United States, however. Throughout the 2000s, women's uniforms never adequately fit. And in 2015, the Norwegian women's national team had to wear unisex uniforms in competition. In response to these uniforms, Norway's captain said, "We know they have done their best and that they haven't had much time, but it's a bit unfortunate that we walk around in strips that look like tents." And to make matters even worse, Norway's women's national team was ranked 11th in the world at the time. The men's? 70th. Yet, they were still forced to wear unisex uniforms designed for men and won't even get their own for the World Cup. With the team ranked 11th in the world compared to 70th for the men, the Norwegian Federation has been accused of getting its priorities wrong, but the ruling body is blaming teething problems. In an ideal world, we would have had a strip tailored for the women by now, but it takes time to get the partnership working and to get women's kits sewn. The World Cup will be the only tournament without tailored kits for women. Even better, if that's how you'd like to phrase it, Nike didn't even sell women's team jerseys in men's sizes until 2015 for an incredibly rational reason. Nike Wilkins says, the Nike spokesperson, fears that adding stars to men's replicas would be interpreted as a false claim that the men had won 2 World Cups. He must think very highly of soccer fans. But really, imagine what the US women's national team sales could have been if they were available in men's sizes. But finally, in 2019, women's teams got their own uniforms for the World Cup, and they were sold in both men's and women's sizes. However, now that they have their own uniforms, all should be perfect, right? Still wrong. Now that the baggy and men's uniforms are gone, women are still fighting against white shorts over period concerns. In the 2015 World Cup, where the United States were once again crowned Women's World Cup champions, Nike's uniforms were designed all white.
This summer, the U.S. women's national team will be going with a white-on-white home jersey. Nike unveiled the new home uniforms, which will feature white jerseys and shorts with black numbers and a stripe down the side.
Though the U.S. women's national team never spoke out against this, many players and full teams have. Manchester City women's team fought to move away from white shorts starting for the 2023 season. Their sponsor, Puma, came out with a statement reading, "Puma and Manchester City take pride in working closely with our players to support them and create the best possible environment for them to feel comfortable and perform at their highest level." As a result of player feedback and underlying topic of women wanting to move away from wearing white shorts while on their periods, we've decided to implement changes to the products we offer to our female players. Starting from the 2023-24 season, we will not be providing white shorts to our female athletes. We will always provide an alternative for our home, away, and third kits to solve these issues highlighted by women across all sports. But Manchester City players aren't the only one fighting against white shorts. Crystal Palace midfielder Lee Nicole stated, "Physically, alongside you being tired, there's a worry that you might leak. That's always at the back of your head, especially if you wear shorts that can obviously show if you're leaking." West Brom also ditched white shorts for its women's side. The club stated, "Wearing white clothing on a period is an issue that has been highlighted by women across all sports, and Albion would ensure this is fully considered when designing all future home kits." Now the team will sport navy shorts. Even England's national team has tried to implement a change, as England striker Beth Mead explained. "It's very nice to have an all-white kit, but sometimes it's not practical when it's the time of the month. We've discussed it as a team and we have fed that back to Nike. Hopefully they're going to change that." However, Mead and the rest of the England national team were stuck in all-white uniforms for the 2022 Euros. This uniform issue and complaints aren't specific to Europe. It's happening very close to home. Even here, Nebraska women's soccer team has an all-white uniform in its rotation. So, how do the players feel about this? Let's go ask.
Okay, so one time when I was playing a game in a dome, it was in the middle of winter, I had all white uniform on, and unbeknownst to me, I had started my period, and by halftime, the entire back end of my shorts were covered in red, and I had to keep playing in it no matter what, because we didn't have extra jerseys. So, to say I'm a little indifferent to white shorts at least, I don't mind a good white jersey and white socks. White shorts are they're hard to mess around with.
Personally, I do think white uniforms are a bit uncomfortable because it puts women in like a predicament where if you're on your menstrual cycle, you have to take more precautions than usual, and you're always like worried about it. And I think that there's so many other steps that like the university can take, and we have black uniforms. Like we can even get dark gray uniforms. We can get like dark red uniforms. But yeah, I would say like let's boot out the white uniforms.
So now for some fun insight, how does the soccer world take criticism against its modern uniforms? Wear tighter pants. The previous FIFA president, Sepp Blatter, once stated in regards to women's soccer uniforms, "Let the women play in more feminine clothes like they do in volleyball. They could, for example, have tighter shorts. Female players are pretty, if you excuse me saying so." He continued, saying, "They already have some different rules to men, such as playing with a lighter ball. That decision was taken to create a more female aesthetic. So why not do it in fashion?" Well, I think we can all agree that tighter shorts is definitely not going to solve uniform problems for women's soccer teams. Not even in the slightest. Not even in the sales, given the U.S. women's national team successes. So the issue remains that women's comfort and different uniform needs to men are still not fully understood, seen as important, or tended to in the making of their kits. They face a society who is hesitant to talk about periods and wants them to still look pretty while playing. It's gotten better since the white baggy uniforms of the 90s, but Stalker still seems to be averse to making good women's uniforms for great women's players.